Rob here at etrailer.com, and today you're going to be taking a look at the Roadmaster LED bulb and socket kit on our 2019 Chevrolet Sonic. Now, whenever you're flat towing your Sonic, it's going to be really important that we have the lights on our Sonic matching the ones on our RV. Now, there's a few different options of how you can do that. You can do the bulb and socket, or you can go with the magnetic lights. Magnetic lights are a way that have been used for a long time and they do work. But every time we want to tow, we're going to have to set those magnetic lights up, run a wire all the way to the back of our motorhome, potentially scratching the paint on our car, and let's face it, it's just a hassle every time we want to drive or tow our Sonic, we have to set something up. But with our LEDs, it's going to be a one-time installation, and then we can just plug our lights in like normal, and we'll have all our signals at the back. Now, what I really like about the LED bulb and socket kit is the fact that it's going to completely bypass our Sonic's electrical system. So if you don't want to cut into your wiring and deal with any of that, the bulb and socket's going to make it to where we're not going to have to touch the wiring at all. We are going to have to drill a hole in the back of our taillight so that we can get the bulb and socket in place though. But in the event that you want to sell your car later on down the road, we can very easily get this back to stock. Now granted, you probably will have to replace the taillight lens itself, but other than that, there's not really a whole lot to it because we're not messing with the wires and we don't have to worry about damaging anything. And a nice thing about it is that even though we have an extra bulb inside our taillight housing, it's not going to change how the light looks on the outside or how the light's going to reflect. Right now I have my LED light going from the motorhome, but if I turn it off and I turn the car's turn signal on, you'll see that it still has that bright light and it looks almost completely the same. Now keep in mind, this is only going to be one component of a complete safe flat tow setup. For a whole setup, you're going to need a base plate, a tow bar wiring, a braking system, and safety cables. And specifically for our Sonic, we're also going to need a fuse bypass because there are several fuses that we're going to have to pull underneath the hood and inside so we can safely flat tow our Sonic. And also, finally, a stoplight switch so we can get the monitor light hooked up on our braking system. And you can find all of these components here at etrailer.com. To start out, I want to mention we have our front fascia removed because we just got done installing the base plate, so it will be a little bit easier to route your wires if you're doing that at the same time. You're going to want to start wherever your plug for your wiring is going to go. Our base plate has two tabs here, so I just wanted to make sure that I left enough slack here that I can wire up my plug. I'm just going to wrap it around so it doesn't get pulled with it the rest of the way. Then we want to route our 4-pole wire all the way to the back of the vehicle. So I routed mine behind the bumper here, came over to the driver's side, went into the engine bay, and I left myself a loop right here because we're going to be needing to tie into this with our braking system later on. But then I just followed it all the way towards the firewall and shot it straight down so we could go following the frame. So my wire came down right by the wheel well here. I went to the outside. Then I actually ran it behind this rocker panel. That way it's nice and protected because there's not a whole lot to zip tie anything to over here. And once it came out the back of the rocker panel, I brought it up, zip tying it in place to the bottom of the body, came up by my fuel tank, and then since I have my exhaust right here, I actually went across, spanning over to the passenger side, and ran my wire until I came right back at the back of the bumper here. Now that we have our 4-pole routed to the back, we're going to move up top and we can pull our taillights out. So if we open up the rear hatch, right on the inside of our taillights, we're going to have two fasteners. We'll grab a Phillips bit or a Phillips screwdriver and we'll pull both of those out. When both screws are removed, we can grab our taillight. Now, there is going to be a little bit of a flex to it, but you want to pull as straight back as you can because there's some alignment pins and you don't want those to break. And we'll go ahead and come to the back. We're going to need to unclip all the wires. We'll just pull them out of the little clips that hold them in place. And we'll come to the actual sockets themselves. We can turn them counterclockwise and pull all the bulbs out. And then we can set the taillight assembly aside. And we're going to pull out the other side as well. With both taillights removed, we're going to want to separate our wires so that we have 4 separate wires. Easiest way to do that is you just grab a pair of cutters. We're going to come right in between each one of the wires. We're just going to make a small cut, just enough to start it. We'll grab the end of it with your finger and you just pull them apart. You're going to want to go as high up to the last anchor point at the back of the car as you can. That way we have 4 separate wires. We can work with them individually. Now we're going to need to get our wires up to the taillight housing area. Now the easiest way to do that is if you take a coat hanger, I got a piece of airline tube, whatever you have laying around that's going to have some structure to it once you start pushing. But I'm going to pass it down right between the bumper and the body here until I can reach it underneath and meet up with my wires. So my airline tube came out right here at the back of the bumper. And we're going to, since we're on the passenger side, we're going to work with the green, the white, and the brown wire. So I'm going to take my bundle of wire, I'll grab some electrical tape, and I'm going to secure the wire to the airline tube. That way I can pull it up to the top and bring all the slack up. And whenever you pull your wires up, you want to make sure you pull all the slack up. And what I like to do to make sure that it's not going to fall back down is I'll take my bundle, I'll take a zip tie, and I'm going to anchor my 3 wires to my existing wiring right here. That way I know it's not going to fall back down and get caught in anything when I'm driving down the road. So now with our 3 wires, we're going to estimate about how much wire we're going to need. So we can safely say if our wires are about the length of the factory wires, we should have enough room to get the taillight in and out without having to worry about it. So we're going to cut all the excess off. Except when you do, you want to hold on to the brown and the white excess wire. And we'll strip back each end of our 3 wires here. Then in our kit, we're going to have some butt connectors. We're going to have some larger yellow ones and some smaller blue ones. Now the yellow ones are going to be when we double up wires, and the blue ones are going to be for the single wires. But these don't have any kind of protection against the elements, so I'm going to be switching them out for some heat shrink butt connectors, and these are going to be the same size and the same color. So anytime you see me using a yellow one, it's to replace the yellow butt connector, and the blue one is to replace the blue butt connector. So we'll take a blue butt connector, we'll take the stripped end, put it into one end of our butt connector, and crimp it down. We'll grab our LED. There's going to be 3 wires on the back. I'm going to strip back each one of these as well. And we're going to start with our red wire. This is going to go directly into the green wire. Put our wire in and crimp it down. Now for our brown wire, we already have the one end stripped. We're going to grab the excess wire and we're going to strip that back as well. We'll combine the 2 ends together. And grab a yellow butt connector and crimp it in place. Then we can grab our LED again. And now the brown wire is going to go back into the yellow connector with the other brown wires. And finally we'll take our white wire and we're going to double up the same way we did with the brown wire. So we'll take our excess white wire, we'll strip it back and combine the 2 in a yellow butt connector. And finally, the last wire we should have left on our LED is the black wire, and that'll go into the butt connector going to the white wires on our car. Use a heat gun to shrink down my butt connectors. Now if you're using an open flame like a torch or a lighter, you just want to be careful not to burn or char the wires or the connectors. We're going to take the brown wire and the white wire, we're going to send it back down so we can meet up with our yellow wire, and we're going to bring it up to the top on the driver's side. Now I use the same method to get my wires up over on the driver's side. Just use that airline tube, pulled all that slack through. And again, it'd be a good idea to go ahead and anchor it off. That way, once we have our taillight in, if there is any slack, it's not going to fall back down into the body. And we'll go ahead and cut the excess off of our wires and strip back the end of it. Grab another one of our blue butt connectors, put on our yellow wire. We'll grab our other LED, working with the red wire, strip it back, and that's going to connect to our yellow wire. Our brown wire will connect to our brown wire. Now for our white and black wire, it's going to be a little bit different. We'll strip back the end of our black wire. We're going to grab a yellow butt connector. We'll crimp it onto the end of our black wire. And then we want to grab, even if it's only a couple inches, we need a little bit of white wire so that we can make a grounding point. So we'll grab a short piece of white wire. I'm going to strip back both ends. We'll combine one end with our white wire coming up from the bottom. We're going to crimp it right into that yellow butt connector. And we're going to want to grab the ring terminal out of our kit, and we'll slide it on the last open end of that white wire. Crimp it in place. Now we have a good connection point so we can make our ground. And we can grab the self-tapping screw out of our kit along with the 1/4-inch nut driver, and I'm going to go directly into the body here. Just want to find a nice solid point so that screw has a good grip. You want to make sure that ring terminal is tight, but it doesn't strip out the screw. Now obviously we're going to have somewhere to put the bulb into the housing. So if we come to the back of our taillight area, at the very top, this is going to be the red section. If we look, the very top area will be our brake light signal. And if we come, we'll see that it's going to have kind of a textured area towards the center. We'll have that clean spot in the middle. If we come right about in line where our other factory light is, but right on the edge of that textured point, that's where we're going to want to drill a hole. But we need it to be a 1-inch diameter hole, and it does need to be round. So your best bet is going to be using a hole saw. You just want to take your time and make sure you get the positioning correct. So like I said, we'll just find that line right where the texture starts, come right about centered. I'll take my 1-inch hole saw and drill right through the housing. And clean up all the plastic shavings and blow out any that got inside the lens as well. And once you have this hole cut, you do want to double check to see that the LED is at least going to fit inside. It may be a loose fit right now, but that's okay. So long as it can actually get in, we'll go ahead and drill the other side out the exact same way in the same spot. So we can start putting all of our factory lights back in place. Just want to make sure you get them in the appropriate spot, but it shouldn't be too hard to figure out because once you figure out where the wires go, they only really go in one way. Just make sure we connect them all back up. And then for our LED here, if we flip it over and we look at the inside, you'll notice it's going to have these little tabs. And you saw earlier that it fit a little loose. So I'm going to take a flat blade screwdriver. I'm just going to come through and go to each one of these tabs and just bend them out slightly. That way when we put it into the housing, it'll have something to grab onto. Let's work our way around, bending them out. Once you have them all bent out, we'll grab our housing, and put our bulb inside. You can see it's still a little bit loose, so we'll just bend those out a little bit more so they can grab a little bit better. Now you can see it's actually quite a snug fit, which is a good thing, so we don't have to worry about our light falling out. But if you look at the back of the light where the wires go, you can actually see that it's really exposed. There's no protection for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some silicone and I'm going to fill up not only the hole where the wires are coming out, but I'm also going to go all the way around and just seal all that up. We don't have to worry about water, moisture, or anything else getting inside the housing. Go around, make sure everything's sealed up good. And we're going to repeat the same thing for the other taillight housing. And with all of our connections made back here, we line up our taillights and put them back in place. And we'll replace the fasteners. We'll go ahead and put the other one in as well. And now would be a good time to go ahead and clean up any loose wires you have underneath. Make sure everything's nice and secure. Now that we have our fascia back on, you do want to wire up the plug that's going to go on the front of your Sonic. Now our kit's not going to come with one, but you can pick up a 4, 5, or 6 round here at etrailer.com. Now the final step of our installation is going to be testing our circuits. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in my tester, and we can verify that all the lights are working properly. As you can see, my tail lights are on, and we can see the lights coming through. Now the left turn signal is working properly. My brake lights, and my right turn signal. All we have left to do now is hook up to our motorhome and hit the road.